television show Batman premiered in January of 1966, which is a very interesting year when a lot of cultural things happen. This is a major pop culture injection, this TV show. So this is going to be about the writers, producers, and just the general scene surrounding Batman. The president of DC Comics at the time was Jacob Leibowitz, and he was behind the push to promote Batman through into other media to increase sales of the comic book. And they'd just barely done a revamping of the logo and Batman's insignia on his chest. The project finally ended up in the lap of William Dozier, who worked under, his company was Greenway Productions, which was working under ABC and 20th Century Fox. The show was given the green light sometime in mid-1965, but ramping up to January of '66, they put together the 1943 and 49 film serials, like basically two movies that were shown as serials to kids back in the day. And they showed these at college campuses across the U.S. and also famously at the Playboy Mansion. The writer, William Dozier, got to do the story for Batman was Lorenzo Semple Jr. And he is an interesting character because he came from a well-to-do background in New York, just outside of New York City, and he enlisted in the American Field Service to go fight for the Free French forces in 1941. So this is separate from the American military, and to be a part of the American Field Service, you had to have a lot of money because you were an ambulance driver and you worked. You had to pay for your own ambulance, your own room and board, everything it took to be in a foreign country driving an ambulance. You had to pay for. So most of the guys there were from Yale or Harvard, places like this, Ivy League colleges, and you had to be of a certain mindset. And it also seems like a feeder for intelligence. Like guys who would work there would have intelligence on the ground. Ivy League is known for having a big recruiting ground for intelligence. So this is something to keep in mind because he was then recruited by the U.S. military after he finished his service into military intelligence, and can't find anything as to what he did working for military intelligence, but that was what he did until the end of the war. And this is, of course, World War II, which people of this generation working in Hollywood, most of them would have either been in the military or in intelligence. A lot of them would have been in intelligence because as they would work under propaganda and things like this. So, for example, Lorenzo Semple's literary agent was Evarts Ziegler, who's well known in Hollywood, and his stable of writers, many of them worked in intelligence, and he himself, Evarts Ziegler, worked in the OSS, which is the precursor to the CIA. So Lorenzo Semple was the writer for Batman, and a number of the things he wrote later on show his mindset, and he absolutely hates conspiracy theorists. There's an interview, which I'll put a link to, where he just they ask him about, because he wrote so many movies with conspiracy theories in them, like, what do you think about conspiracy theorists? And he's like, I hate them, I can't stand them, they're just the most low people on earth. This guy is a very elite guy. He can't stand anything low. He hated comic books, didn't read them. William Dozier, the producer, hadn't even read comic books. This guy had read comic books as a lark. But the kind of movies he's written, just to show you the parallax view, Warren Beatty, total conspiracy movie about killing a president or a political figure. 3 Days of the Condor, total conspiracy movie. The CIA takes out a section of the CIA, shoots them all. One guy's missing. He goes on the run. Who's after him? He doesn't know. And so another film is Flash Gordon, which he wrote, and most people would not consider it a conspiracy film, but there is definitely a subtext of conspiracy going on there. And they talk about how Ming, the merciless of Mungo, controls his kingdoms by keeping them fighting with each other. This sort of thing Lorenzo Semple does is he drops things in this comedic form, just kind of breezes by you. And so in that sense, he's very clever. He's a very smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's a part of. And when he's writing these conspiracy movies, he's also fascinated very much with technology. And this is one of the things that Batman is concerned with, is technology. Whenever Batman goes to his Batcave to type in on his Batcomputer what he wants to find out, let's look at the charts of something. It's exactly like our modern computer is, and it's the predictive programming. A film Lorenzo Semple wrote in 1961 was called The Honeymoon Machine. He actually wrote the play, and it was adapted into a film. There's a computer on board a Navy ship that 3 sailors used to calculate the odds at a roulette table in Venice, Italy, and he seems to have had access to knowledge about this. So he's working in military intelligence. His obsession with technology. A friend of his quoted that he was the first person he knew to have the internet. He had robotic, a house that the window shades opened and it said good morning, and so he had this kind of Batman-like obsession with technology. For someone maybe exposed to what was going to happen technologically, you can see why he would have this obsession. He would be just ahead of the curve, most people. So that's the end of this first part about Batman, Lorenzo Semple, the 1966 time period. I'll get into the creators of Batman, the original creators, Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and some other people like Patrick Leahy, possibly. What does he have to do with Batman?
From the Guardian in England or something saying we're doing a thing on conspiracy movies. Actually, you're the person we come to. And I always tell them which is true. I say, I do not believe in any conspiracies at all. I think they're total bullshit. Total. I mean, they're wackos that have them. And but I said that enables me to write them. Because, I'm not sucked in by this, to me, imbecilic stories. Because, these plans to go too far, I don't want to get started on.